I'm going to be the Beastmaster Ranger. My incompetence is going to be everyone's problem except for mine. I'm going to be a cleric to heal, but I'm going to charge people every time because he's going to be a god of commerce. Clerics can take a hit.
Action surge!
What? Let me introduce you to my totem.
What?
Rage! Look, Brownie, I prefer it from the skulls of our enemy as well. But the cleric said if we decapitate Braden, he'd charge us extra to resurrect him. Wait. What do you mean we're live? Rage!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unqualified Experts. I'm your host, Braden Gardner.
And I'm Corrupt Overlord, Shane Dayton.
And today, we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons of playing a fighter in 5th edition D&D versus playing a barbarian in 5th edition D&D. I think you know where each of us stand at this point. I'm pro-fighter and Shane is pro-barbarian, but we figured we'd give you a little more than a short comedy sketch to kind of outline our thoughts as to why we think one is generally better than the other.
Yeah, and this is kind of a pros and cons of each, because depending on your playing style, what type of backstory you want, you may find that you gravitate towards one of these classes for one campaign and then go the other direction for another. So we just want to give you kind of a deep dive into both, and then you'll know exactly which way to go. And speaking of our opening sketch, in the same way Braden smashed through my early character ideas and I returned the favor by smashing him, please smash the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. We appreciate the love, we appreciate the support. So, on that note, since we're all about the smashing, let's start with the Barbarian. Right away, one of the advantages of the Barbarian is the role-playing aspect. The name Barbarian conjures up an image. Conan the Barbarian, Queen Boudica of the Celts for you history nuts, a Scottish Highlander berserker, the Viking raider seeing shore appear. Or for you comic fans, the Incredible Hulk is a fair comparison to a superhero barbarian. So, one of the fun parts for Barbarian is it simplifies how complex your role-playing can be. If you really like that idea of just being, I don't know what the right term is, whether it's the Noble Savage, the Tribe of Honor, the Raiders of the Coast, it gives you a very good blueprint for how you can play your character and also how your character sees the world. And for those of us who have a hard time coming up with backstory, admittedly not me with how much I like to cause trouble, but for a lot of players the backstory is challenging. And going the Barbarian route takes out a little bit of the pressure there. You can roleplay, it gives you plenty of room to just be the hack and smash the whole campaign, or you also have the space to learn from your companions and flesh out the character as the campaign goes along. And I think it's really underestimated how much freedom that gives you in role-playing. Because it's very easy to just think of the stereotypical barbarian, but playing Leif Erikson the Viking versus, Rob Roy the Scottish Highlander or William Wallace versus Queen of the Celts versus Conan the Barbarian, you actually have a lot of different storylines, and they're all easily related. You can see how they're all barbarians, but at the same time, it gives you that little bit of freedom where you have all the pillars set up here and here, and so anywhere in the middle, create your character, create your barbarian, and just kind of run with it.
Now, as someone who also tends to favor dedicating a fair bit of time to backstory, while you do have options with the barbarian, and more than it would look like at first glance, there just isn't a substitute for the sheer volume of role-playing options that you can put together for your fighter.
True.
That mesh with the fighting style that you've chosen to adopt. And thanks to the new edition of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, you now have pretty much every conceivable option for a fighting style you can ever want to pick from. And from there, you're able to kind of use that fighting style to dictate your code of honor, how you react to different situations, where you want to start and finish, how you're going to grow throughout a campaign. It's all there for you depending on how you want to build. You could be a samurai, you could be a bare-knuckle brawler, you could be a tactician. The options are limitless with the fighter, and honestly to the point where it's almost a little paralyzing.
Yeah, it definitely can be, and I think that also hits a related aspect where the fighter does beat the barbarian, which is versatility. Even before Tasha's, if you wanted the best archer in the game, you min-maxed a dexterous fighter. I mean, you didn't even go ranger, you went with the fighter. You would argue the fighter was a better melee character in many ways than the barbarian, and you're probably right. In others, not so much, but in some ways the fighter is just that. He's the superior fighter. And whether you came from militia, army, mercenary, there were so many options. I joked before Tasha's that I hoped they had a bare-knuckle fighter, so I would be the Queen's Rule boxer with the stupid old style like this. Then I read Tasha's, and they literally had a bare-knuckle pugilist option for the fighter. So, for versatility, as much as I like the barbarian, the fighter wins hands down in that department. Especially if you want to get creative with how your fighter actually fights mechanically in the campaign.
Exactly, and a lot of how you want to fight in a campaign is going to dictate which of these two classes is going to be right for you. If you want to be the guy who is moving around the battlefield, taking multiple attacks, and setting up plays for other party members to work off of, the fighter's your guy. You're basically going to have up to 4 attacks as you get to higher levels. Mm-hmm. You can use literally any arms or armor you want, and are going to be able to, for lack of a better term, fighter college your way through pretty much any tactical situation depending on how you set yourself up, and can work with your party mates to really make the most of any battlefield state.
Which is nice, because I am a player who tends to like versatility. But sometimes you just don't want to think, you just want to play and have fun. And the Barbarian is an A+ in this. When you build a Barbarian, no matter which subclass you go, you're basically a min-max tank made easy. You think you can hurt me? I'm the Barbarian. Okay, we're going to go attack someone else in the party. One of the ways this makes the Barbarian superior is if you're relatively new to D&D in general or 5th Ed and you like the melee classes, Barbarian's a perfect introduction. You can take a lot of hits, you can hit back plenty hard, you get that little bit of guidance and role-playing, and if you're a more advanced player, there are all kinds of ways to manipulate it to make it a little bit more your style or add more to it. But I love the fact that the Barbarian, they can be unarmored. They also have the ability to wear light and medium armor. Although, most of the time with your stat roll, going unarmored just makes more sense. But you do have those options. So why are they a tank? Well, one, if you go all the way to level 20, their bonuses basically give you extra constitution, which is a ton of extra hit points. Plus you're never getting sick again. Go health. You get super strong, so you can hit like a tank, because, Barbarian. They're the only class with a D12 health die. And that's huge, because if your DM makes you roll for them, and you are notoriously terrible at rolling...
You? No.
I know, right? You still stack the odds in your favor. A 1 in 12 chance of getting 1 hit point is, I'm still more willing to take that chance versus a 1 in 6 with some of the casting classes, especially with my luck. If they give you the average, your 7 hit point average is higher than some classes can get in a level up. If you get the full health, holy moly, 12 points a level. That So if you go the full campaign, an example, if you went to level 20, you have 240 hit points just from the levels alone, which, if you did nothing else, means you probably have more health than every other member of your party. But you'll have an extra 40 because you would have took the tough feat, because Barbarian, there was no reason not to take the tough feat. From your level 20 bonuses, your con bonus means plus 7. That's another 140 hit points. So that is an unlikely chill number of 420 hit points for the Barbarian. Oh yeah, and you obviously took Totem of the Bear at level 3, meaning unless they're attacking your brain, you only take half damage. So it's basically like having practically 840 hit points. Congratulations, you are harder to kill than an ancient dragon.
And those definitely symbolize kind of a best case scenario.
Yeah.
However, the trade-off with being able to tank this well is that the Barbarian doesn't get as many attacks. However, the ones that hit really pack a wallop.
Hulk smash.
If you really want to go all in for those epic moments, the Barbarian is your guy. If you're looking for more consistent damage over time, you're probably going to be leaning toward the fighter. And until you get to level 20, the fighter is going to top out at a higher AC, assuming that you're able to cap out at plus 3 armor and plus 3 shield and do all of this other stuff.
Yeah, and so knowing the type of campaign you're playing in matters. If it's a very low magic, very few magic items, you may want to go Barbarian. If your DM's the type who's like, oh, you're level 9, take whatever you want, you probably want that plus 3 plate mail and plus 3 shield with the fighter.
Yeah, economy's kind of a big deal, because in order to get the fighter to an optimum point, you're going to be spending a few Dragon's Hordes to get to that point. Whereas the Barbarian, meh, plus 3 weapon, maybe a shield if you're using a one-handed weapon, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and at high levels, both classes are devastating, but they're devastating in different ways. The fighter, oh, I'll just go ahead and take 4 attacks my turn. Oh, I will just go ahead and action surge and take another 4 attacks. Oh, the mage hasted me? Awesome. And at that point, your DM is crying into his sheet as you slice up whatever he threw at you. Barbarians, they get less attacks, but I want to mention 2 beautiful words to anyone who has never been on the wrong side of them. Brutal critical. Yeah, you get to do double the damage of your dice. The Barbarian, well, they know how to hack and slash, so they keep adding more and more and more dice to their critical hits. And at the top, when you're adding 3 additional dice damage or 4 additional dice damage on top of a crit, you're talking about a Barbarian who has a chance to do 50 hit points of damage with 1 swing of a normal sword. That's insane. I mean, you have to hit the numbers right, but the fighter cannot do that. Whereas the Barbarian, oh, that's a nice Hydra you had. Be a shame if one attack cut off 4 heads. And he might pull it off.
Crushing highs and complete rock bottom lows.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yep.
The Barbarian is kind of the king of extremes.
Yeah. Or you may be sitting there taking a lot of arrows because your team needs a shield. And, you know, the Barbarians don't have a lot of defense against, especially mid-level. A lot of the mages and enemies will kind of jump ahead of them, and the Barbarian really catches up late level, which kind of brings me to the 4th one. How long is your campaign? If your DM tells you ahead of time, as ours often do, okay, you're going to level 20, or you're going to level 12, or you're going to level 9, that might actually dictate which of these classes is better. And I think for middle, the fighter hands down wins in the middle levels. You're getting the better armor, you're getting multi-attacks, you're getting that extra ability score. But in the very low levels and the very high levels, you can make a good case for Barbarian. I know in a past campaign, spoilers for those who play in the 3-year campaign, that's not a spoiler because it's the worst kept secret ever. He played a secretly evil paladin who had someone trying to expose him. He was expecting a paladin of Bahamut, a paladin of one of the good gods. So me, being the... what's a nice word for jackass?
Jackass.
Let's just go with jackass. Yeah. Being the jackass I am, I created a totem barbarian dwarf. And the first time he met and realized this is the guy coming after me, even with that smite, it did not go well.
Well, and it was so much worse than that because not being a newbie to D&D, I recognized that even as we leveled up, the paladin would lose to the barbarian at every step of the way up to level 20 without help. And being the only evil member of a party who is definitely trying to bring about a different sort of apocalypse that the party's not necessarily privy to and definitely not cool with. I wasn't going to get that support unless I found a way to get help from outside.
Yeah. And creatively, that'll be a story time for a future episode, which to this day, you got the best of me in that one, so well done. But,
yeah.
how long your campaign is matters a lot, because if you're going to be hitting those mid-levels, like 13 or 15, with the Barbarian, that may be a point where you even consider taking 2 of Paladin, because a smite can work with the Barbarian, confirmed by Jeremy Crawford, rules Maestro of D&D for Wizards of the Coast, or you may even take 2 levels of Fighter, because we all know 2 levels of Fighter is pretty much the best multi-class.
The 3rd edition standby, returning for duty. Fantastic.
And so, depending how long your campaign is, that makes a big difference whether I would jump to the Hulk smash of the Fighter, or the Barbarian, or decide maybe this is the time to bring out that versatile Fighter I've been playing with. Because if it's mid-levels, I'm probably going with the Fighter. If it's low levels or high levels, and I feel like smashing stuff, I am definitely going with the Barbarian.
And speaking of the length of the campaign, I think there's one other area of time to consider when making your choice, and that's the length of a typical day that your DM actually runs. And this isn't necessarily something that you're going to know unless you've been playing with your group for a while. But if you're playing with a DM that is prone to giving you 3-4 fights in a given day, and all you have is a short rest if you're lucky to recharge, I would personally lean Fighter in those cases, just because the Fighter is not dependent on class features to get the most bang for their buck for the most part. You're going to be able to still wear your armor, you're still going to be able to draw your sword, and basically consistently hack and slash until you're out of hit points.
Yeah, and you actually bring up a really good point. Most of the time, because of how long fights take, we don't tend to do the dungeon crawling 6-fight type campaigns. So, in our campaigns, it generally doesn't matter how many rages you have in a day, because you have enough. If you're a low-level barbarian going on a dungeon crawl, that actually does become an issue. Because rage is where you get your power, whether it's fully tanking or fully hitting. And you really do not want to play with levels of exhaustion and 5e if you can avoid it, because those things get nasty really quick.
And of course, if your DM is a real jerk and has a mage that's picked up calm emotions, well, that sure was a nice tank you had once. Because the Barbarian, a lot of their subclasses rely on getting hit, but then mitigating a chunk of the damage because they're raging.
Yeah. And that's also another thing you run into, is you hit a veteran group, there are some very classic responses to dealing with a Barbarian. And if you're a new player, I'd say don't let that scare you off. You need to have that experience of both running roughshod over some players and then getting your ass handed to you. It's all part of the learning experience. There's almost always great stories about how you learn to play a Barbarian. But be aware, DMs especially are very aware of how to counter a barbarian. And while most of us will try not to meta too hard, look, there is only so much we're going to put up with before we pull out a little bit of an extra cheat, And
I don't know what you're talking about.
with a high-level barbarian, you just kind of have to have a cheat on standby if anything's going to happen. The basic cons of barbarian, they're not as versatile, and especially compared to the fighter. Example, in another campaign, a friend of mine played a Dothraki barbarian. And while from the storyline that's the right class feature, if you're going to be a horse archer, he still should have actually gone fighter and then just roleplay the Dothraki, just because you can make a dex archer fighter. That makes way more sense. Barbarians are very much all or nothing. They are a tank and an unstoppable force of nature, or they failed that intelligence check and they are standing there picking their nose while your teammates yell for you to get in the front of the line. Good luck with that intelligence save. You're not going to make it.
Yeah.
And unless you rolled Yahtzee 6s for stats, you're not going to make it. Simple, which can be a plus or a negative depending how you take the barbarian. And watch that dump stat. The thing you learn very quickly is, because barbarians are so scary in what they do, and you could argue more than any other class, what they do very, very well. Everybody who has played D&D for any amount of time knows the Achilles heel of a barbarian and how to attack them. And so you just need to be prepped for when that inevitable moment comes.
Yeah, and to kind of recap the fighter drawbacks, barbarians are just better defensive. They just are better at defense, period. They get the ability to resist spells with advantage on dex saves. They don't have to wear armor to get a decent armor class, and it's relatively low cost to get a barbarian to high power level.
Yeah, and honestly, as of this taping at least, every barbarian will take Totem of the Bear at level 3, because half damage on everything when raging, except for psychic damage. And the only enemy or non-custom player that does psychic damage at this point is like a Mind Flayer. And you should know pretty quickly if you're running into those or not in a campaign. So, yes, you become a tank very quickly. That is a very good point.
Yeah, and you just get those abilities, and they're just always on.
Mm-hmm.
A fighter to even try and match that is going to be taking a shield and the shield master feat, and even then they have to spend their reaction to take advantage of being able to get pseudo evasion from spells. It's not a thing that's good for a fighter's action economy. You're going to have to do a lot more work to plan your character and your strategies in combat than you would with a barbarian, which that's not always going to be a bad thing, but there are going to be cases where you're going to be presented with 6 different options and you're going to need to make a decision on the fly as to which of those you're going to go with. So unless you've actually taken some time to kind of plan out a roadmap of, if I do X, then I'm going to do Y instead of Z because of W, then you're going to want to make sure that you've got those kind of committed to memory so that you're not holding up the game.
Yeah, whereas a barbarian, hack, slash, good talk, next turn.
Barbarians also get access to methods for dealing a lot of damage at lower levels compared to the fighter. Until the fighter starts getting to swing their sword 2, 3, 4 times, the barbarian is generally going to outpace the fighter in terms of DPS early on.
Until about mid-levels, for sure.
And like I mentioned before, building a barbarian doesn't require much in terms of gold. Like, you get a weapon and get sent on your way, basically, and anything else you pick up's gravy.
Yeah.
The fighter, you're going to have to shell out for armor, a shield, a weapon, a few other things to kind of help with the bag of tricks you've selected from your subclass. It's going to be one of those situations where you're going to be constantly looking at the next thing you can buy and trying to track it down.
Lots and lots of gold, whereas the barbarian is just building a fortune. And yeah, although I will say that both classes can be a lot of fun to play. I tend to go a little bit more support or distance versus melee, but they have their moments, and whenever you're kind of in the right mood for a melee character, man, they can be a lot of fun to play in the right situations. And so for me, I mean, I would say that I could see myself being about 50-50. I have some great Barbarian stories. I tend to like versatility, so especially with what Tasha's brought out for the fighter, it's hard for me to say no to that. But man, if I have to make a character on the fly that I know I'm actually going to enjoy and I don't have time to plan it out, man, Barbarian all day long.
I can't argue with that. I like having options, and having 5th edition basically bake in storytelling components into your subclasses basically does streamline the process a fair bit, but figuring out which one of your dozen or so completely different options, it can be a lot. So if you have the time, like Shane said, great, you should absolutely map out a fighter if that's your jam. But if you're looking for something quick and dirty for a one-shot where you're not necessarily building up over time, Barbarian's not a bad pick at all.
Yeah, especially if you're a melee guy. I mean, there are places for paladins and clerics and everything else too, and you'll love to see them in a party. But if you just want to thwack stuff and not get pushed over the first time someone, puts a sword in your chest, you're going to be hard-pressed to beat Barbarian.
But now we want to hear from you. Which class do you prefer and why? Are you the planner type where you're going to be setting up a fighter going from level 1 to level 20? Or do you want to just throw all of that backstory stuff out the window and smash right away?
Did you add a bit of Warlock to your fighter to pull some A+ level BS with your DM? Did your Barbarian just prove to be a grog-like god? We want to hear those stories in the comments below, so let us have it. What do you think, fighter or Barbarian? Who should prevail?
Clearly the fighter, obviously.
I disagree. Stop enraging me.
No.
Anyway, let us know what you think. Whether raged or not, rage is obviously the right answer. And until next time, good gaming.
See you next time.
If you like what you just saw, please support us by hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more great gaming content.